What, if anything, can you tell us about this process and about what the Browns or anyone else's expectations are?
I hate to say it, but not much at this point. Quite frankly, it's in the hands of the NFL. What I will say is that when we hear the term indefinite suspension, it is exactly what the NFL wants it to be. They want to deflect. They want to project it out into the future, and that's where we now stand. And, I think there was an expectation, Bobby, that it was going to be somewhere in the line of 6 to 8 games, maybe when you tried to really hash it out. Not the lifetime ban that maybe the irrational judgment initially thought it to be. But I could see them just saying, we'll let him back week 1.
And so you looked at that. I think they wanted to push this out to the offseason, so you're not dealing with it in the midst of the playoffs. You're not dealing with it in the midst of the Super Bowl. They don't want to carry this over into 2020, Greeny, have us be talking about it leading into training camp. I would anticipate that it'll get reinstated. He's a good guy. He doesn't have any history with any of these things, so I think that's the biggest piece. This isn't a situation where he's a repeat offender. This isn't Vontaze Burfict, who's been out headhunting for years and has been warned. There's no history of this. There's no pattern of behavior, and because of that, you show contrition, you do some things, we'll give you a conditional reinstatement.
He had some flags for late hits on the quarterback, that kind of thing, which is obviously not the same thing.
But you know what's funny, Greeny? It's part of me wants to make a joke about the fact, what do you expect him to do when he goes in the commissioner's office? Be like, I might do this again. Of course he's going to be contrite.
Right.
That said, there's a lot of meetings that happen in that office that you'd be fascinated to learn that the guy walks in there and be like, I didn't do anything wrong and I'm not apologizing.
Here's the complicated part of this for me, and this is what I tried to bring up as soon as it occurred to me. We were on the day after this happened. It might not have been until the following week that this part of it entered my mind. There happened to be 6 games left in the season when this happened.
Right.
That's a very convenient number as we sit and look at it now. Had there been 3 games left in the season, because whatever they do here, they are to some degree setting a precedent, right? You take your helmet off and hit someone in the head with it on a football field. This is what the punishment is going to be. So have we decided it's 6 games? We were talking about a full year. We were talking about whether or not they should involve law enforcement on the day after this happened. I get it that cooler heads prevail. But what we are deciding is that 6 games is going to be the number if that's what they leave it at, based solely, I think, upon the fact that that's how many games were left on the schedule.
There were 6 games left, but then they also said this, it was going to include potential playoffs. So the remainder of the season. So Cleveland at that point in time still had a pathway to get into the playoffs. So 6 games sounds about right. If they would have maybe potentially made the playoffs, you could have lopped on a 7th or 8th in there. And then I think they give themselves enough leeway to where they don't think they're coming down.
What I'm trying to say is, if this happened week 3, would it be a 6-week suspension and be back in week 10? I don't think that's the way it would go.
You make a fantastic point when it comes to precedent, because it's not a team punishment. You're not punishing a guy, if he made the playoffs, that he gets those suspension. To that point, you're setting a precedent for hitting a guy in the head with his helmet.
Right.
And I don't know that 6 games is enough. You just completely changed my mind.
Well, that's the thing, is that, and I'm not accusing anyone of anything. It happened to be a very, looking back on it, a very convenient way to do it. We suspend him for the rest of the year, let him come in, show contrition, we bring him back. But the reality is, if this had happened week 3, I don't think we would have seen Myles Garrett the rest of the season at all. So now all of a sudden it would have become a 13-game suspension. That's the part of this that I think is complicated as they try and figure out how to finish this thing.
Precedent is a very important element that I definitely was not thinking about.
And I guess if you look at all the things and all the suspensions that we have and the things that happen off the field and all of that different stuff, 6 games seems to fit in that box. It seemed to work out really well for the NFL. And heaven forbid something like this happens going forward, then they at least have that 6 games, Greeny, to kind of lean back on.
Perhaps. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports, highlights, and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.